Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Automation Tech Guru. RESTful API Testing Framework Part 2. In this video we will see project setup and installation, SpecFlow Basics, primary keywords, steps, given when then, features, step definitions, tags, scenario and scenario outline, and hooks. So let's start. So before going to start this video, I would like to tell you that registration opens for two different batches which we are starting from 14th December and 16th December 2024. If you want to attend this training, this is a 22 hours training program, and the objective of this training is you can see the Selenium with C# 9 hours, POM using SpecFlow 6 hours, SpecFlow and BDD framework design, action report integration 3 hours, RestSharp API automation 4 hours. This training will be every day and 2 hours each session will be required. If you want to do the registration, you can mail me on tejpalchannel@gmail.com. So let's start. Project setup and installation. So we will start Visual Studio. I just open the Visual Studio. So first setting up the Visual Studio. So if you want to if you don't have a Visual Studio on your machine, you need to download from the visualstudio.com downloads. So I just open the browser also and showcase from where you can install it. Visual Studio. If you go, this is the visualstudio.com, and you can open this and you can see this is the website visualstudio.com, and you can go to the downloads. So there are three different options. One is community, professional, and enterprise. If you want to get the paid version or free trial, so you can download the professional and enterprise. But if you want to do the free coding using Visual Studio 2022, you can download from the free downloads. So once you click on it, it will start the downloading. You can see here, so it's already installed in my machine, so I don't want to install this again. And let me go to the downloads. I just search for Visual Studio installer. So I just open this. You can see this will be the Visual Studio installer will be open. So it's asking for the before going to start, you need to click on continue. So you can see since Visual Studio is already installed in my machine, so that's why it's showing like update available. So I just want to close, and you will get the option here from the install. So you can install this Visual Studio Community 2022. So I already installed in my machine. So let's open. Oh, it's already open here. Yeah. So now what we need to do, we need to create a new project. So go to the PPT here. Okay. Complete the installation of Visual Studio 2022 on your Windows machine. Creating an automation test project in Visual Studio. So how to do that? First is start the Visual Studio. Click on the create new project. So let's, yes. So create on new project. It will ask for the search for the template. So what template we need to search? Search for the SpecFlow project. So I just click on here, the search window, and you can see this is the SpecFlow project. Add the project name, location, solution name, and click on create. So this is the project. You can click on next, and you can give the test project name. So I will give REST API test automation. And what will be the location? So you just need to choose the location where you want to create this project, and you need to click checkbox also. This checkbox should be checked. It is because place solution and project in the same directory, so that the whole project will be in the same directory. And you just need to click on create. So let's create this. Now select the .NET framework and test framework as NUnit. So this is the .NET framework, which if you want to change any different .NET framework, you can select from here, and the test manager, you can use the NUnit, XUnit, or MS test. So I'm using the NUnit. Let's create. So once this project will be created, so now you can see the project is created. Let's go to the solution explorer and see the project. You have this REST API test automation. These are the dependencies which already installed here, and you have a feature. You have a step definition. If you want to use any driver class drivers, you can add here, or you have this implicit using dot ch. See, so this is basically for the global uh, namespaces. Okay. Now what next we need to do? Click on tools and search for the update extension and update. So click on tools, go to extension, okay, it's already there in the manage extension. So here you need to search for the SpecFlow. In the extension update window, click online section and search for the SpecFlow and download the SpecFlow for Visual Studio 2022. So you can see this is the online, and this is already installed in my machine. You can see the green mark tick. The extension is already installed. If it is not installed, you need to select this, and you need to install it once. When you try to install this SpecFlow extension, you need to close the Visual Studio, and then it will start the installation. So once after installation this, yeah, it will close the Visual Studio, and installer will be appear. click on modify and agree the terms and condition, and then click install the extension. Open Visual Studio and reload the automation project. Now what next we need to install? So NUnit package, you need NUnit test adapter. SpecFlow package, you need SpecFlow, SpecFlow assistant dynamic, SpecFlow.NUnit, and RestSharp packages, that is search for the RestSharp and manage NuGet. So I will show those. So NUnit NUnit test adapter, SpecFlow NUnit, it's already installed, so we don't need to install this, but we need to install the RestSharp and manage NuGet package. So right click on the project and go to the manage NuGet package, and you just need to search for RestSharp. So this is the RestSharp simple REST and HTTP API client. So you need to install the latest version of it. So just click on it, install. So now, yeah, this is installed now, and you can also see here this RestSharp. So we already installed this one, and next is okay. So this is the setup which we need to do before start the any project activity. So what next? Next is SpecFlow Basics, features and steps. So Gherkin is a set of special keywords to give structure and meaning to executable specifications. Each keyword is translated to many spoken languages. In this reference, we will use English keywords. So each line that isn't a blank line has to start with the Gherkin keyword and followed by any text you like. The only exception are the feature and scenario description. The primary keywords are feature, rules, example or scenario, given, when, then, and, but for steps or star, background, scenario outline, example. These are the primary keywords. There are some few secondary keywords also. So like doc string, that is quotes, double quotes, then pipe, that is for the data table, at the rate for the tags, and hash for the comment. So these are the things which you can use if you want to. I just want to show you. So just go to the calculator feature, so you can see each of the keywords. You can see at the rate for the tag, scenario, given, when, then. These are the keywords are there, right? And if you want to use the example, so here you can use outline. I will show you how to do that, but for now outline, I just okay. Now if you have an outline, you should have the examples, and for examples, what you need to do, you need to use the type pipe. So suppose you want to pass something here as an example, number 1. Okay, so this number will be start with the pipe number 1, again close with the pipe number 2, again close the with the pipe result. So I put this as a number 2, and this will be the result. Okay, now close this with the pipe. Now what we need to do, we need to use this pipe again, and you can have number 1, then 2, then you can have what will be the result, it will be 3 if we are doing sum. So this is this kind of example we can set here. So this is the example for the this keywords. So let's just remove this. Now next, if you want to use the at the rate, if you use here at the rate, you can add any. Any comment if you want to add this, right? And what next? Next is hash. So if you want to add anything for the commenting, right, you can use the hash and add anything. So this will be as a comment. Okay. Now next, localization. Gherkin is localized for many spoken languages. Each has their own localized equivalent of these keywords. Features. So the purpose of the feature keyword is to provide the high level description of a software feature and to group related scenario. Like here, if you go, so this is the feature keywords. This is the feature name. That is the definition for the calculator. Next is the first primary keyword in a working document must always be feature followed by colon. So you can see here, this is the feature and this is the colon, and short text that describes the feature. You can add free form text underneath feature to add more description. So you can see this is the more description they have added. You can add anything here because it will not require any comment. Okay, but if you want to add any kind of comment, you can use the hash also. These description line are ignored by SpecFlow at runtime but are available for supporting reporting. Okay, now next, so feature will be the calculator as I showed you, my tag scenario, add two names. So the name and the optional description have no special meaning to SpecFlow. Their purpose is to provide a place for you to document important aspects of the feature, such as the brief explanation or list of business rules, general acceptance criteria. So this is the criteria, add two numbers. The free format description for feature ends when you start a line with the keyword background, rule, example, scenario outline, and there lies keyword. You can place tags above feature to group related features independent of your file and directory structure. Next, tags. So tags are the are market markers that can be assigned to feature and as scenario. Assigning a tag to a feature is equivalent to assigning the tag to all the scenario in the feature file. So suppose you have this, right, and you can add here tag sum. So this tag will if you add all the sum here, right, so whatever scenarios you are writing for any kind of sum, doing to a sum for different numbers, right, so these can be tagged with one this tag, and those are the collectively showing in the results, or you can see in the text explorer if you are using the sum keyword for sum tag for the different test cases. So it will group all the test scenarios which is added by this tag. If supported by the unit test framework, SpecFlow generates categories from these tags. The generated category name is the same as the tag's name, but without leading at the rate. You can filter and group the tests to be executed using these unit test categories. So as I said, it will create the categories. For example, you can use tag crucial test for the important and then execute this test more frequently. So all the important test cases, if you have added this at the rate important tag for the different test cases, those are grouped and you can use execute those in one go. If your unit test framework does not support categories, you can still use tag to implement special logic for tagged scenario in binding by querying scenario context dot scenario info dot tag property. So how you will get this? So if I go to the step definition and here, right, what is this scenario context dot scenario info, or maybe it will come in current dot dot not there scenario context. Okay, scenario info is already there. Dot, it is not there in the tags, or maybe the tags also there. Yes, it's already there. So in this way you can use that tag in a code also. Scenario rules and feature levels tags are available by querying scenario info dot combined tag property. uh, SpecFlow treats the @ignore tag as a special tag. SpecFlow generates an ignored unit test method from scenario with this tag. So if you add any tag as ignore, the test case will not be executed if it is tagged as a ignored. So suppose I just put here @ignore. Now if I go to the text explorer, since we have not built this project yet, so once we need to at least build this first. Now if you open this text explorer, so it's saying, see, ignore. So whatever text tag you are using, it will come to this, right? So number of test cases treats by this particular tag, or categorized by. Next is description. So free form description as described above for feature can also be placed underneath example scenario background, scenario outline and rules. You can write anything you like as long as no line start with a keyword. Rules is the optional rule. Keyword has been part of a Gherkin version 6. The purpose of rule keyword is to present one business rule that should be implemented. It provides additional information for a feature. A rule is used to group together several scenarios that belongs to this business rule. A rule should contain one or more scenarios that illustrate the particular rule. From SpecFlow version 4, you can also add tag on rules that will be inherited for all the scenario within the rule. Next is scenario. So this is a concrete example that illustrates a business rule. It consists of a list of steps. The keyword scenario is a synonyms of the keyword example. You can have as many as step you like, but we recommend you keep a number at 3 to 5 per example. Having too much steps in an example will cause it lose its expression power as a specification and documentation. In addition to being a specification documentation, an example is also a test. As a whole, your example are an executable specification of the system. Examples follow the same patterns. Describe the initial context given, describe the event when step, describe the expected outcome then. So steps, each steps start with the given, when, then, and, or but. So if I show here, right, so given, when, then, and, or you can use but also. Yes. Okay, so this is the but. Then next is SpecFlow executes each step in a scenario one at a time in the sequence you have written them. When SpecFlow tries to execute a step, it looks for a matching step definition to the execute. So if you have these steps, right, so for each step definition you should have the definition as well. So if you go right click and go to the definition, it should have the given, the first number is this, so this is the number as a definition. Keywords are not taken into account when looking for a step definition. This means you cannot have a given, when, then, and but step with the same text as another step. SpecFlow consider following step duplicates. Given the first number is 750 and second number is 70. So this might like a limitation, but it forces you to come up with the less ambiguous and more clear domain language. So you can see here, given the first number is 50 and second number is 70. You can utilize the same different step definition by passing the text or by using the scenario outline. I will showcase. Next, given. So given step is are used to describe the initial context of the system, the scene of the scenario. It is typically something that happened in the past. When SpecFlow execute a given step, it will configure the system to be in a well-defined state, such as creating, configuring objects, or adding data to a text database. The purpose of given step is to put the system in a known state before the user or external system start interacting with the system in the when step, avoiding talking about user interaction in givens. If you were creating use case, given would be your precondition. It's okay on to have several given steps. Use and or but for number two or and upwards to make it more readable. So if you want to have multiple steps, you can use and or but. Next is, so example, given the first name number is 50. When. So when step are used to describe an event or an action. This can be a person interacting with the system, or it can be an event triggered by another system. It's strongly recommended you only have a single when step per scenario. If you feel compelled to add more, it's usually a sign that you should split the scenario up to multiple scenario. So when two numbers are added, so we have given two different number in given statement. Now when is the condition is the two number are added or action. Then steps are used to describe the expected outcome or result. So the step definition of it, then step should use as a session to compare the actual outcome, what the system actually does to the expected outcome, what the step says the system is supposed to do. An outcome should be on an observable output, that is something that comes out of the system, report, user interaction or user interface message, and not a behavior deeply briefed inside the system like a record in a database. So the example this, the then result should be 120. And but if you have the successive given when then, you could create or use to describe the expected outcome or result. So multiple givens, given one thing, given another thing, given another thing. When I open my eyes, then I should see something, I should see something else. Or you could make the example more fluidly structured by replacing the successive given when then with and but. So that same scenario should be written like this: scenario, multiple givens, given one thing and another thing and another thing. When I open my eyes, and I should see something but I shouldn't see something else. Asterisk or a star. Gherkin also supporting using asterisk in place of any normal step keywords. This can be used helpful when you have some steps that are effectively our list of things, and you can express it more likely bullet points, where otherwise the natural language of and etc. might not ready to elegantly. So if you have this test, this example, right? So you can use like this also. The scenario, given one thing, a star, asterisk, another thing, asterisk, another thing. Background. So occasionally you will find yourself repeat the same given steps in uh, all of the scenario in a feature. Since it is repeated in every scenario, this is the indication that those steps are not essential to describe the scenario. They are incidental as details. You can literally move such given steps to the background by grouping them under background section. So where it is the background section, let me show you. You can just use background, simple. So in this you can have whatever steps you don't want to execute again and again. Just you need to execute once. Suppose I just want to give first number every time 20 for each of the test case, so it will execute in the background. A background allow you to add some context to the scenario that follows it. It can contain one or more given steps which are run before each scenario but after any before hooks. A background is placed before the first scenario or example at the same level intended. So I just showcase you background given one thing. For a less explicit alternative to background, check out scoped step definition. So tips for the using background. Don't use background to set up complicated sets unless the state is actually something the client need to know. For example, if the user and site name don't matter to the client, use a high level step such as given I'm logged off is in as a site owner. Keep your background section short. The client need to actually remember this stuff when reading the scenarios. If the background is more than 4 lines long, consider moving some of the irrelevant details into higher level steps. Make your background section vivid. Use colorful names and try to tell a story. The human brain keeps track of stories much better than it keeps track of name like user A, B, or site 1, site 2, and so on. Keep your scenario short and don't have too many. If the background section has scrolled off the screen, the reader no longer has a full overview of what is happening. Think about using high level steps and splitting the feature files. Scenario outline. So the scenario outline keyword can be used to run the same scenario multiple times with different combinations of values. The keyword scenario template is a synonym of the keyword scenario outline. Copying and paste scenario to use different value quickly become tedious and repetitive. So if you want to use this, right, given add one number two, add two number first, and then again you have add number two second, and you need to pass the same test cases, right? or same numbers. So we can collapse these two similar scenario into the scenario outline, and scenario outline allow us to more concisely express the scenario through the use of template with delimited parameter. So you can see this. So let me show you this how it can be done. So suppose you have this one scenario, okay, and let me just remove this background. We don't need this now. Okay, this will be the first. Okay, now I want to create another scenario too. Okay, and the value will, maybe we can just change to this one. Okay, now so these are the two test cases, but if you see, the steps will be the same because these are the same test cases. If you go to the this one definition, it will go the same definition. So instead of having two different scenario, what we can do, we can have scenario outline and then paste this one, add to number, and then we can have the example. Now you can pass 50, or as I said you, number 1, number 2, and the result. And here we can have this number 1. What we can pass, we need to find the first 50, and the second number 70, result will be 120. So this is the first scenario. Second scenario, you can add 80, first first number, second number is 20, and your result will be 100. Okay, so now this is the one test case for combining these two test cases, right? And here what you need to do, you just need to add the number 2, number 1, and this will be the result. And when you save this, or you just need to build it, okay. Now so if you go by this, right, you will reach to this number only, integer number, same thing, and this will be the second. Okay. So how we combine these two, first number, second number, 30, 50. A scenario outline must contain the examples or scenarios sections. Its steps are interpreted as a template which is never directly run. Instead, the scenario outline is run once for each row in the example section beneath it, not counting the first header row. So this first header row will not be counted. Okay, the steps can be used delimited parameters that reference headers in the example table. SpecFlow will replace these parameters with value from the table before it tries to match the step definition in a step against the step definition. Note: tables are used in example must have unique header. Using duplicate header will result the error. So suppose if you have this, right, header number 1, then it will have the error. Okay, now hint: in certain cases when generating methods names using the regular expression method, SpecFlow is unable to generate the correct parameter signatures for unit test logic methods without a little help. Placing single quotation mark around placeholder improves the SpecFlow ability to parse the scenario outline and generate more accurate regular expression and text method. So if you are using, suppose these are the numbers, right? If you are using any kind of URL, suppose google.com, right? So in that case, you can use the single quotes. Or if you are having the text, any string if you want to use, you can use the. This is basically as a parameter. If you are not having this example, instead of example, you can have this name as a parameter. So this is also allowed. Okay. You can also use the parameter in multiple step arguments. In some cases, you might want to pass more data in a step than fit in the on a single line. For this purpose, Gherkin has the document string and data table. So the doc string are handy for passing a larger piece of text to a step definition. The text should be offset by delimited consisting of three double quotes marked on lines of their own. In your step definition, there is no need to find this text and match it in your pattern. It will automatically be passed as a large argument in the step definition. Indentation indentation of the opening is unimportant. Although common practice is two spaces in from the enclosed steps. The indentation inside the triple quotes, however, it signifies each line of the document string will be redundant according to the opening. Indentation beyond the column is opening will therefore be preserved. Data table. Data table are handy for passing a list of value to a step definition. Just like a doc string, data table will also be passed to the definition as a first argument. Feature language. To avoid communication error introduced by translation, it is recommended to keep the specification and acceptance test descriptions in the language of the business. The Gherkin format support many natural language besides English like German, Spanish, French. More details on the supported natural language are available. The language of the feature files can either be specified globally in your configuration C language element or in the feature file header using the language syntax. Specify the language using the ISO language name used by the culture info class of the .NET framework ENUs. SpecFlow uses the feature file language to determine the set of keywords used to parse the file, but the language setting is also used as the default setting for converting parameters by SpecFlow runtime. The culture for binding, execution, and parameter conversion can be specified explicitly. See binding culture element. As data conversion can only be done using the specific culture in .NET framework. We recommend using the specific culture name ENUS instead of natural language or natural culture name. If a natural culture is used, SpecFlow uses the specific default culture to convert data. Binding. The Gherkin feature file are closer to free text than to code. They cannot be executed as they are. The automation can connects the specification of the application interface has to be deployed first. The automation that connects the working specification to source code is called binding. The binding classes and methods can be defined in the SpecFlow projects and internal binding assemblies. These are the several kind of binding in SpecFlow. Step definition. This is the most important one, the step definition that automates the scenario at the top step level. This means that instead of providing automation for the entire scenario, it has to be done for each separate step. The benefit of this model is that the step definition can be used in other scenario, making it possible to partly construct further scenarios from existing step with less or no automation effort. It is required to add binding attribute to the classes where you define your step definition. So how it be done? You can see here, this is the step definition class. Let me show you. So this is the binding keyword. It is required for the this class should be bind with this feature. Hooks. Hooks can be used to perform additional automation logic on specific events before executing a scenario. Note, binding step definition hooks are global for entire SpecFlow project. Hooks can be used to perform additional automation logic at the specific times, such as any setup required prior to execute a scenario. Hooks are global but can be restricted to run only for feature or scenario by defining the scope binding, which can be filtered with tag. The execution order of hooks for same type is undefined unless specified specs is explicitly. So this is the so in this video we have seen project setup and installation for the SpecFlow project, and also we have seen some SpecFlow basics. I hope you like my video. Please like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you.